He thought the XY Larian girl was just a stranger until a genetic scan revealed the truth. Kalen Darvis stood at his security station in the gleaming Zenith Spire space station, his massive silver-gray metallic armor reflecting the soft azure glow of the overhead lights. 20 cycles of service in the Galactic Guard had earned him this comfortable position as head of security, but sometimes he missed the adrenaline rush of active duty. The constant stream of varied alien species passing through his checkpoint barely registered anymore, just another shift in the cycle. His armor's enhanced systems hummed quietly, the Galactic Security Directorate emblem on his chest pulsing with a subtle golden light. The technological readout streaming across his helmet's heads-up display showed nothing unusual among today's passengers, just the usual mix of traders, envoys, and sightseers. "Next," he called out, his deep voice carrying the authority that came naturally after cycles of command. The being who stepped forward made him pause. She was clearly of XY Larian descent. The amethyst skin and hypnotic cerulean eyes were unmistakable, but there was something about her that caught his attention. Maybe it was the way she carried herself, or how her lavender hair seemed to capture and reflect the station's lights in an almost familiar pattern. She wore a form-fitting black bodysuit with metallic inlays that spoke of wealth and status, but her eyes held a hint of uncertainty that didn't match her expensive attire. "Welcome to Zenith Spire," Kalen said, maintaining his professional demeanor.
Standard-Genetik-Scan for all first-time visitors.
He handed her the scanner, expecting the usual routine. The girl, she couldn't have been more than 20 cycles old, pressed her palm against the device with practiced ease.
The scanner screen flashed crimson.
Kalen frowned. Crimson usually meant trouble, but this was different. Instead of the usual security alerts, a message blazed across his display: genetic match found. Paternal confirmation, 99.99%. His world tilted sideways. 20 cycles ago, that night with a beautiful XY Larian woman in the Starhaven on Centera Prime. They'd both been young, caught up in the excitement of the diplomatic conclave. She disappeared the next morning, leaving only a handwritten note and the memory of amethyst skin against his. "Is everything all right?" the girl asked, her voice carrying a slight musical lilt typical of her species. Kalen swallowed hard, his training kicking in to maintain his composure.
"Yes, everything's fine. Welcome to Zenith Spire, Miss
Lyra Starfall," she supplied. "Enjoy your stay, Miss Starfall." He handed back her credentials, watching as she walked away, her lavender hair swaying gently. His daughter. He had a daughter. The rest of his shift passed in a blur. Every few minutes, his eyes would drift to the security feeds, tracking Lyra's progress through the station. She checked into one of the upper-level hotels, the kind favored by wealthy merchants and diplomats. What was she doing here? Was it coincidence? Or, as the station's artificial night cycle began, Kalen made his decision. He wouldn't approach her, not yet. But he'd watch over her, protect her from the shadows. It was the least he could do after 20 cycles of absence, even if that absence hadn't been his choice. What he didn't know was that fate had other plans, much bigger plans. Kalen couldn't sleep that night. His quarters in the upper security section of Zenith Spire felt unusually confining. Memories of that long-ago evening with Lyra's mother flooded back.
Enpsenix.
That was her name. She'd been a junior envoy, all grace and mystery, with a laugh that seemed to dance through the air. He stripped off his armor, the sophisticated machinery powering down with a soft whir. The mirror reflected his muscular frame, battle scars telling stories of countless conflicts. At 45 cycles, he was in his prime. Humans aged differently than XY Larians, maintaining their vigor well into their 70s. His security terminal chimed. Chief Darvis, his AI assistant's voice filled the room. Unusual energy signatures detected in the Platinum Quarter, specifically the Celestial Bloom Hotel.
Kaelen's Pulse Quickenet.
The Celestial Bloom, where Lyra was staying. Details. Energy patterns consistent with Umbratech cloaking devices. 3 signatures, moving information. They're skilled, sir, but they can't hide from our new quantum sensors. Umbratech was military-grade stealth technology, illegal in civilian spaces. Anyone using it wasn't planning a social call. Alert status. Currently yellow, sir. Security protocols suggest discreet observation unless there's immediate threat to life. I know the protocols. Kalen was already pulling his armor back on, mind racing. Give me a direct feed to their movements. The holographic display showed 3 ghostly figures moving through the hotel's 42nd floor, Lyra's floor. This couldn't be coincidence. Computer, who else is staying on that floor? 3 Centaurian trade delegates, a Martian ambassador, and... The AI paused. The other guest information is classified above my clearance level. Kalen's jaw clenched. High-value targets, probably political. And his daughter was right in the middle of it. He activated his armor stealth systems, not as sophisticated as Umbratech, but enough to avoid casual detection. The station's night cycle was in full effect as he made his way to the hotel, using service corridors and maintenance shafts to avoid the skeleton crew of night staff. His comm unit buzzed. Chief Darvas, a sultry feminine voice purred through the speaker. I believe we have a mutual interest in tonight's entertainment.
Kaelen Froze.
The voice belonged to Serafina Vale, the station's chief of intelligence. She was notorious among the staff, HFY Larian woman of remarkable beauty and even more remarkable tactical mind. Their paths had crossed professionally several times, each encounter charged with unspoken tension.
Serafina.
I wasn't aware intelligence was monitoring this situation.
Oh, darling, Herr Voice Carita smile. We monitor everything.
But this particular situation has my personal attention.
Meet me in the hotel's security office.
And Kalen, do try to be discreet. We wouldn't want to spook our shadows before we understand their game. The security office was dark when he arrived, but he could make out Serafina's silhouette against the monitors. She turned, her amethyst skin seeming to absorb the dim light, her curves accentuated by a form-fitting uniform that walked the line between professional and provocative. You move quietly for such a large man, she said, eyes twinkling. One of many things I find intriguing about humans. Kalen maintained his professional demeanor, though his pulse quickened.
The situation. Straight to business.
How very human. She gestured to the monitors. 3 operatives, using military-grade stealth tech. They're after something, or someone, on that floor. The question is, who? Any theories? Several. All fascinating. She moved closer, her perfume carrying hints of exotic blossoms. But I'm more interested in why you responded personally to a routine security alert. Unless... Her eyes narrowed. There's something you're not telling me. Kalen met her gaze.
Serafina was dangerous, brilliant, seductive, and photoperceptive.
But right now, she might be his best ally. The girl in room 42 to 15, he said carefully. She's important.
Lyra Starfall. Serafina's lips curved.
Yes, I noticed your reaction during her security screening. The DNA scan was quite illuminating, you know. I suspected the genetic markers were interesting. She placed a hand on his armored chest.
Don't worry, Kalen. Your secret is safe with ME, for now.
Before he could respond, the monitors flashed crimson. The shadow figures were moving straight toward Lyra's room. Well, Serafina purred, drawing a sleek weapon from her thigh holster, shall we go be heroes? The dimly lit corridor of the Celestial Bloom Hotel's 42nd floor hummed with tension as Kalen and Serafina moved silently toward Lyra's room. His armor's enhanced sensors tracked the shadow operatives, while Serafina's natural HFY Larian night vision gave her perfect clarity in the darkness. 3 meters ahead, Kalen whispered, his voice barely audible. They're waiting. The shadow operatives had indeed stopped, forming a protective triangle around Lyra's door rather than breaching it. Serafina's hand brushed Kalen's armored forearm, sending an unexpected surge of electricity through him despite the metallic barrier. Not attackers, she breathed, her lips close to his ear. Guardians. Before they could react, Lyra's door slid open. The young woman stepped out, but something was different. Her hands glowed with a soft azure light, and her eyes blazed with the same energy. The shadow operatives dropped to one knee. Princess, one of them said, their stealth field dissolving to reveal ceremonial HFY Larian armor. The package is secure.
Kalen's mind reeled. Princess?
Lyra's response was cut short as she spotted them.
Security Chief Davos.
Then her eyes widened as she saw Serafina.
And Serafina. The revelation hit Kalen like a plasma burst.
He turned to Serafina, who had the grace to look slightly embarrassed despite her usual composure. I may have omitted certain details about my family connection, she admitted, her amethyst skin darkening slightly in what he recognized as a HFY Larian blush.
NYX is my sister.
The corridor erupted in chaos as emergency lights suddenly flashed crimson. Station-wide alerts blared through hidden speakers. Kalen's combat instincts kicked in as he noticed movement at both ends of the corridor, definitely not friendly. Time for family reunions later, he growled, positioning himself between the threats and his newly discovered family. We've got company. Lyra raised her hands, the azure energy intensifying. I can help. Mother's diplomatic codes weren't the only thing she passed on to me. The next few moments were a blur of action. Lyra's inherited, human HFY Larian hybrid abilities manifested in ways that defied conventional physics, creating shields of pure energy. The shadow operatives moved with lethal precision, while Serafina demonstrated why she was feared throughout 3 sectors as more than just an intelligence officer. And Kalen did what humans did best. He adapted, improvised, and fought with that unique combination of tactical brilliance and controlled fury that had made humanity both respected and feared across the galaxy. They made it to the secure diplomatic level, where Serafina's override codes granted them sanctuary in a private suite, away from prying eyes and ears. The truth emerged. Lyra wasn't just any diplomatic courier. She was carrying crucial peace treaties in her very genetic code, encrypted in a way that combined human and HFY Larian DNA sequences. It was a security measure that only someone of her unique heritage could accomplish. Your mother, Kalen said, finally removing his helmet. She knew this would happen. Serafina stepped closer, her professional demeanor softening. Nyx always played the long game. She saw the potential in human HFY Larian genetic compatibility, and in you, Kalen. Their eyes met, and 20 cycles of political intrigue suddenly seemed less important than the electricity crackling between them. Serafina's hand found the release catches of his armor with practiced ease. The suite is secure, she murmured, her amethyst skin seeming to glow in the dim light. And we have much to discuss, about human HFY Larian relations. Lyra rolled her eyes in a remarkably human gesture. I'll be in the tactical room with my guards, reviewing security protocols. Please, take your time with your, diplomatic discussions.
The door whispered shoot behind Lyra, leaving Kalen and Serafina alone in the dimly lit suite.
The space station's artificial night cycle cast soft shadows across Serafina's amethyst skin as she stepped closer, her movements carrying that natural HFY Larian grace that had first captivated him 2 decades ago with her sister. You humans, she murmured, her fingers finding the release catches of his armor with practiced precision, so passionate, so intense.
Everything about you burns bricht an any species wie encountered.
The armor plates released with soft pneumatic hisses. Kalen caught her hand as it traced a battle scar across his chest. And you HFY Larians, always so controlled, so measured, until you're not. Her lips curved into that dangerous smile he was beginning to adore. Care to test that theory, Security Chief? Their first kiss was like a supernova, explosive, inevitable, transformative. Her skin felt like silk beneath his calloused hands, radiating that subtle warmth unique to her species. She tasted of exotic spices and starlight. I've wanted this, she breathed against his mouth, since the first day you strutted into that security briefing, all human confidence and raw power. His laugh rumbled deep in his chest. Strutted, Her fingers traced patterns across his shoulders. Like you owned the station. It was infuriating and irresistible. They moved together like dancers in zero gravity, each touch a revelation, each kiss a new discovery. The station's environmental systems seemed to respond to their passion, the lighting dimming further, the air growing warmer. Hours later, they lay tangled in the sweet silk sheets, their bodies cooling in the artificial night. Serafina traced lazy patterns across his chest, while Kalen played with her shimmering hair, marveling at how it seemed to capture and reflect even the faintest light. You're thinking too loud, she murmured against his skin. Just wondering what your sister would say about this. Serafina propped herself up on one elbow, her eyes glowing with that subtle HFY Larian bioluminescence.
NYX?
She'd probably say, about damn time. She always believed humans and HFY Larians were meant for more than just political alliances. Hours later, as artificial dawn began to color the station's environmental displays, Kalen lay awake, Serafina's amethyst form curled against him. His daughter was safe, protected by elite guards. He had found not just family, but something he never expected, a future that combined duty, love, and the kind of adventure only possible when human determination met HFY Larian grace. The training facility, deep within Zenith Spire's secure sector, hummed with energy as Lyra stood at its center, her hands wreathed in shimmering azure light. Kalen watched from behind the reinforced observation window, his chest swelling with pride and concern in equal measure. Her energy signature is off the charts, Serafina murmured beside him, her hand resting possessively on his forearm. After their night together, their professional facades had evolved into something more intimate, though they maintained decorum in public. She's channeling both human adaptability and HFY Larian energy manipulation. It's unprecedented. The facility's sensors tracked Lyra's progress as she faced down holographic opponents. Her movements combined human unpredictability with HFY Larian grace, each gesture leaving trails of ethereal light in its wake. Just like her mother, Kalen said softly, then caught himself. Sorry, I didn't mean. Serafina silenced him with a kiss that sent electricity down his spine. Nyx would be proud of both of you. Her amethyst skin seemed to pulse with its own inner light as she pressed against him, though I must admit, I'm rather partial to your human qualities myself. Their moment was interrupted by a spectacular flash from the training room. Lyra had just executed a perfect combination of human martial arts and HFY Larian energy projection, leaving the holographic opponents scattered like stardust. Holy, Kalen breathed, impressed despite himself.
I've never seen anything like that.
Language, father, Lyra called out, her enhanced hearing picking up his words easily. She deactivated her powers, the azure glow fading as she approached the observation window. And Serafina, is that how mother used to do it? Your mother was powerful, but this.
Serafina shook her head in amazement.
You're creating entirely new techniques. The combination of human and HFY Larian abilities is producing something entirely unique. The training facility's doors whispered open as Lyra joined them in the observation room. She was dressed in a modified version of standard HFY Larian combat gear, adapted to accommodate her hybrid physiology. Sweat gleamed on her amethyst skin, but her eyes sparkled with excitement. The genetic codes, she said, catching her breath, they're not just diplomatic information, are they? They're changing, evolving with my powers.
Serafina's expression grew serious.
We suspected as much. The treaties encoded in your DNA are actually a blueprint for human HFY Larian genetic compatibility.
Your mother.
She glanced at Kalen. She didn't just fall in love with a human. She was part of a secret project to prove our species could do more than just coexist. Kalen ran a hand through his tousled hair, processing this information. So that night, 20 cycles ago, was both genuine attraction and calculated science? Serafina finished, her fingers intertwining with his, though I must say, my sister's taste in humans was impeccable. Their moment was interrupted by a security alert. Kalen's armor systems automatically activated, displays flooding his vision with data. Multiple unauthorized entries detected in the diplomatic sector. Someone's trying to access the secure archives. The same people who were after me at the hotel? Lyra asked, her hands already beginning to glow. No, Serafina's face hardened as she checked her own security feeds. These are HFY Larian purists. They oppose any genetic mixing between species. They must have learned about your existence. Kalen's combat instincts kicked in. Lyra, stay with your aunt.
No.
Both women spoke simultaneously, then shared a knowing look that made him feel distinctly outnumbered. We do this together, Serafina said firmly, her professional demeanor melting into something more intimate as she stepped closer. You humans aren't the only ones who can be stubborn. Besides, Lyra added with a smirk that was pure Kalen, you'll need my powers to bypass their energy shields. They're using traditional HFY Larian technology. The station's alerts continued to blare as they moved through the corridors, Kalen in his battle armor, Serafina in her sleek combat suit, and Lyra pulsing with hybrid energy between them. They made an odd family unit, Kalen reflected, a human security chief, HFY Larian intelligence officer, and their hybrid princess daughter. Just before they reached the diplomatic sector, Serafina pulled Kalen aside for a moment. Her kiss was fierce, possessive, full of promises for later. "Try not to get that pretty armor too scratched up," she purred. "I have plans for you after this is over." "You two are impossible," Lyra groaned, but her smile was fond. "Can we please go save the station now?" As they moved into position, Kalen couldn't help but marvel at how quickly his life had changed. From solitary security chief to father and lover, thrust into an interspecies political conspiracy that could reshape the galaxy. But looking at his daughter's determined face and feeling Serafina's presence beside him, he wouldn't have it any other way. The diplomatic sector erupted in chaos as Kalen, Serafina, and Lyra engaged the purest forces. Energy weapons flashed against Lyra's hybrid shields, while Kalen's enhanced armor systems calculated optimal attack patterns. Serafina moved like liquid starlight, her intelligence training evident in every precise strike. But something felt off. "Their attack pattern," Kalen called out, his tactical systems highlighting inconsistencies. "It's too obvious, too theatrical." Serafina finished, dispatching a purist with elegant efficiency. Her amethyst skin gleamed with exertion as she pressed against Kalen's armored back. "They're hurting us." Lyra's energy pulses cleared a path through the attackers, toward the quantum archives. She realized, but why? A familiar voice echoed through the corridor, stopping them all cold. "Because, my darling daughter, that's exactly where we need you to be." The purists fell back, revealing a figure stepping through a shimmering portal. Nyx, looking exactly as she had 20 cycles ago, her amethyst skin radiant and her lavender hair cascading in familiar waves. She wore a form-fitting diplomatic uniform with subtle armor plating. "Hello, Kalen," she smiled, those hypnotic cerulean eyes, so like Lyra's, twinkling with mischief. "You're looking well. The cycles have been kind to you humans." "Mother." Lyra's energy field flickered with emotion. "Sister." Serafina's voice carried volumes of complex emotion. Her hand found Kalen's, fingers intertwining despite his armor. Kalen's combat systems registered multiple new signatures materializing around them, not purists, but elite HFY Larian special forces. "You staged all this." "The purists are real enough," Nyx explained, approaching their group, "but they're also convenient. We needed to activate Lyra's powers fully, and nothing accomplishes that like genuine danger." She paused, noting how close Serafina and Kalen stood. "Though I see some things developed unexpectedly." "You disappeared for 20 cycles, Kalen growled, his free hand clenching. "Let our daughter grow up without her father." Nyx raised an elegant eyebrow. "You could have searched for us. Humans are remarkably resourceful when properly motivated." "Stop it, both of you," Lyra commanded, her hybrid energy flaring. The station's lights flickered in response. "Explain. Now." Nyx's expression softened. "The genetic codes you carry aren't just treaties or scientific data. They're keys to ancient HFY Larian technology that can only be activated by a perfect hybrid of our species. But the power had to develop naturally, without interference." "So you abandoned her?" Serafina challenged, her professional mask cracking with anger. "Your own daughter?" "I protected her," Nyx countered. "The purists would have killed her as an infant. This way, she grew up safely, developed her powers naturally, and," she smiled at Kalen and Serafina, "found her way back to family when she was ready." The quantum archives hummed behind them, ancient systems awakening in response to Lyra's presence. Kalen felt Serafina press closer, her touch grounding him despite the revelations spinning around them. "And now," he demanded. "Now," Nyx's eyes gleamed, "we show the galaxy what humanity and HFY Larian can truly accomplish together. The archives contain technology that could revolutionize both our species: clean energy, advanced medicine, faster-than-light travel beyond anything we've achieved. But it needed both human adaptability and HFY Larian energy manipulation to unlock it." Lyra stepped forward, her power illuminating the corridor. "You could have told us. Would you have believed me?" Nyx challenged. "Would you have developed these abilities naturally if you'd known your destiny from childhood?" She turned to Kalen and Serafina. "Would you two have found each other if I'd stayed in the picture?" Kalen felt Serafina's fingers tighten around his. Despite everything, he couldn't deny the chemistry between them, the way she fit against him like she was designed to be there. Their night together had been more than just passion. It had been a recognition of something deeper, something that transcended species. The archives are awakening, Nyx observed as ancient systems pulsed with light. Lyra, you'll need training to control what comes next. And you'll need both your father's strength and your aunt's wisdom. She smiled sadly. My part in this story is done. Like hell it is, Kalen growled, surprising himself. Your family, complicated, manipulative, infuriating family, but family. Serafina laughed, the sound rich with emotion. Humans. Always so sentimental. But her eyes shone as she looked at him. That's what makes you impossible to resist. The quantum archives began to open, ancient machinery awakening after millennia of sleep. As light spilled into the corridor, Kalen pulled both Serafina and Lyra close, feeling Nyx step in to complete their strange family circle. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The quantum archives blazed with ethereal light as ancient machinery stirred to life. Kalen's armor sensors screamed warnings about energy signatures unlike anything in their database. Beside him, Serafina's amethyst skin seemed to absorb and reflect the strange illumination, making her glow like a nebula given form. The archives aren't just opening, Nyx announced, her voice tight with concern, they're warning us. Lyra stepped forward, her hybrid energy resonating with the ancient systems. Holographic displays erupted around them, showing scenes of an ancient war, HFY fighting alongside other species against something dark, something that seemed to drink the light itself. The Void Hunters, Nyx breathed. They're not just legends. Care to share with the class? Kalen growled, though his hand found Serafina's instinctively. Her touch, even through his armor, centered him. Our ancestors sealed them away, Serafina explained, her intelligence training evident as she analyzed the displays. Beings that fed on energy itself, biological, technological, even spiritual. They nearly consumed everything before the Ancient Alliance stopped them. And we just woke them up? Lyra finished, her power flaring defensively. The station shuddered. Emergency alerts blared through every sector. Kalen's tactical display lit up with multiple breaches appearing throughout Zenith Spire. Not exactly, Nyx corrected, her diplomatic calm cracking slightly. They've been awakening slowly for centuries. That's why the hybrid program was so crucial. We needed someone who could access the ancient weapons designed to fight them. Kalen's combat instincts kicked in as shadow-like tentacles began seeping through the station's walls. Less history, more action. How do we stop them? The archives contain blueprints for energy weapons that can harm them, Serafina said, already accessing the ancient data streams, but they'll take time to fabricate. Time we don't have, Nyx added as the shadows grew denser. Lyra's hands blazed with hybrid energy. Then we'll make time. The next hours were a blur of desperate action. Kalen coordinated station security while Serafina and Nyx worked to decrypt the ancient weapons data. Lyra's powers kept the shadow creatures at bay, but each confrontation left her more drained. During a brief respite in a sealed command center, Serafina pulled Kalen aside. Her kiss tasted of adrenaline and starlight. You humans, she breathed against his lips, always rushing headlong into impossible situations. You love it, he grinned, his armored hands gentle on her waist. I love you, she corrected, then blinked, surprised by her own admission. Before he could respond, the command center's doors burst open. Nyx rushed in, her usual grace replaced by urgent purpose. We've found it, the core weapon. But there's a catch. When isn't there? Kalen sighed, though he kept Serafina close. It requires 3 types of energy, Nyx explained, HFY, human, and hybrid, a perfect triangle of power focused through. She hesitated. Through what, mother? Lyra demanded. Through family bonds, Nyx finished. The weapon was designed to channel the energy of love itself, the ultimate force the Void Hunters couldn't comprehend or consume. Kalen looked at his strange, beautiful family, his daughter, glowing with hybrid power, his former lover, who had orchestrated an interstellar destiny, and Serafina who had claimed his heart with her brilliant mind and warrior spirit. Well, he said, his brown eyes twinkling, good thing we've got that covered. The station rocked with another impact. Shadow creatures were gathering, sensing the weapon's activation. They had minutes, at most. The focusing chamber, in the heart of the archives, Nyx said. We'll have to fight our way there. Seraphina's hand found Kalen's again. "Any other impossible tasks while we're at it?" "Just one," he replied, pulling her close for another kiss that made Lyra groan and Nyx smile knowingly. "Marry me. After we save the galaxy." "Humans," Seraphina laughed, her eyes shining, so dramatic. "But, yes. Assuming we survive." "We will," Lyra declared, her power illuminating the darkness. "We're family." As they prepared to make their final stand, Kalen realized how far they'd come, from that simple DNA scan at a security checkpoint. Sometimes, the greatest adventures, the deepest loves, began with the smallest moments of truth. The path to the focusing chamber became a gauntlet of shadow and light. Kalen's armor systems registered damage from the Void Hunter's attacks, but he pressed forward, Seraphina's energy barriers complementing his defenses. Lyra blazed ahead like a hybrid star, while Nyx's diplomatic shields proved surprisingly effective against the ancient threat. "The chamber's just ahead," Nyx called out, her voice carrying over the chaos. "But something's different, the energy signatures." The massive doors to the focusing chamber opened to reveal a sight that stopped them all in their tracks. The ancient machinery wasn't just active, it was transforming. Crystal spires reached toward the ceiling, pulsing with colors that shouldn't exist in normal space. By the first light, Seraphina breathed, her hand finding Kalen's. "It's not just a weapon, it's a key." The shadows pressed closer, sensing the power within. Lyra's hybrid energy flared in response, creating a protective dome around them. A key to what? As if in answer, a figure materialized in the center of the chamber, a being of pure light that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Its voice resonated not through sound, but through the energy itself. "To us," it said. "We are the Guardians, those who came before both HFY and humans. We have waited for the perfect union of your species." Kalen's tactical systems struggled to process what he was seeing. "You created the archives?" "We created the potential," the Guardian corrected. "You, all of you, created something far more precious, true bonds that transcend species, love that defies genetic barriers, family that chooses itself." The shadow creatures recoiled from the Guardian's light but pressed their attack with renewed desperation. They recognized an ancient enemy. The weapon. Nyx urged. "We need to." "The weapon is merely a focus," the Guardian interrupted. "What you truly need is already within you. The Void Hunters feed on division, on separation, but they cannot comprehend or consume true unity." Seraphina's scientific mind raced ahead. The family bond requirement, it wasn't just for power. Alignment, the Guardian's light pulsed with approval. "Your family represents something unique in the galaxy, human adaptability and courage, HFY grace and wisdom, and in your daughter, the perfect synthesis of both. But more than that, you forged bonds of choice as well as blood." Kalen felt Seraphina press against him, her amethyst skin almost luminescent in the chamber's light. Their connection hummed with possibility. Lyra stood between them, power flowing through her like a stargate. Nyx completed their circle, her presence adding depth to their family bonds. "Now," the Guardian commanded, "let your love for each other become a weapon that darkness cannot defeat." They moved together, guided by instinct and ancient power. Kalen's human strength formed the foundation, unshakable and adaptable. Seraphina's HFY energy wove through him, their passion for each other becoming pure light. Lyra's hybrid power served as a bridge, amplified by both her parents' love and the deep connection she'd formed with her aunt-turned-stepmother. Nyx's presence added layers of complexity and depth, years of careful planning transformed into pure potential. The chamber erupted with power. The crystal spires sang with frequencies that made reality itself shiver. The Void Hunters screamed in frequencies that shouldn't exist, their darkness consumed by the pure light of family bonds made manifest. But something else was happening. The Guardian's light began to spread, not just through the station, but through the very fabric of space itself. Where it touched, it transformed. "What you have created here," the Guardian explained, as reality shifted around them, "is more than just a weapon. It's a template for evolution itself. Your unified union proves that love can bridge any gap, heal any divide. This gift will spread through both your species, awakening potential that has lain dormant for millennia." Kalen felt it first, an awareness of energy he'd never had before. Serafina gasped as her connection to human emotions deepened beyond anything her species had known. Lyra's hybrid powers stabilized, becoming something entirely new. The political ramifications. Nyx began, then laughed as the energy touched her. Actually, for once, politics can wait. The Guardian's light began to fade. Our time of watching is done. The future belongs to your united species now. Though it added, with what felt like amusement, I believe you have a wedding to plan first. As the ancient being vanished, the chamber's light softened to a warm glow. The Void Hunters were gone, consumed by the power of something they could never understand. But the changes they'd triggered were only beginning. Kalen pulled Serafina close, marveling at how he could now sense her emotions directly. Her kiss tasted of starlight and impossibility. Still want to marry a simple human? Simple? She laughed, her amethyst skin shimmering with new energy. My love, you've never been simple. And now? Her eyes glowed with mischief. Now we get to explore what it means to be truly united. Please, Lyra groaned, though her smile was bright, save it for the honeymoon. Nyx watched them all with satisfaction. When I planned the hybrid program, I never imagined it would lead to this, though she added, with a knowing look at her sister and former lover, some outcomes were rather predictable. As the station systems returned to normal around them, Kalen looked at his extraordinary family. From a simple DNA scan to saving the galaxy and transforming 2 species, it had been quite a week. 2 weeks after the battle with the Void Hunters, Zenith Spire's grand ceremonial chamber glowed with a blend of human and XY Larian decorations. Kalen stood before a mirror, adjusting his formal uniform, a masterpiece of human military styling with subtle XY Larian energy-infused threads that made the fabric shimmer. Nervous, Starslayer? Lyra teased, entering the preparation room. She wore a stunning hybrid-style dress that complemented both her amethyst skin and her human features. Her newly stabilized powers created a subtle aurora around her. Terrified, Kalen admitted, his enhanced connection to emotions making honesty inevitable. Who'd have thought a simple DNA scan would lead to all this? Speaking of scans, Lyra's eyes twinkled mischievously. Wait until you see what Aunt Serafina, soon-to-be Mother Serafina, is wearing. The ceremonial dress incorporates quantum threading that responds to emotional energy, and given how you two feel about each other. Don't finish that sentence, Kalen growled playfully, though his pulse quickened at the thought. Since their evolution, his connection with Serafina had deepened beyond anything he'd imagined possible. Every touch, every kiss, carried layers of sensation that transcended physical reality. Nyx swept into the room, resplendent in diplomatic finery. The guests are arriving. The XY Larian High Council is particularly interested in this ceremony, the first official union between our species since the transformation. No pressure. The council can wait, Lyra declared. This is about family. The ceremonial chamber filled with dignitaries from both species, but Kalen barely noticed them. When Serafina appeared at the chamber's entrance, his world narrowed to her alone. Her dress was indeed remarkable, quantum threads shifting colors in response to their shared emotions, creating patterns that told their love story in light and energy. Their enhanced connection let him feel her joy, her desire, her complete certainty about their union. His own emotions reflected back through their bond, creating a feedback loop of passion and devotion that made the quantum threads in both their outfits dance with light. The ceremony combined traditions from both cultures. They exchanged energy signatures in the XY Larian way, their newly evolved abilities making the connection deeper than ever before. The human tradition of rings was enhanced by metals that conducted and amplified their emotional bond. 2 species, 1 heart, the officiator declared, using the traditional phrase that had gained new meaning since the transformation. What started as a chance encounter has become a template for our united future. Kalen felt Serafina's amusement through their bond. Chance encounter? She thought directly to him, their new abilities allowing silent communication. My sister planned this for decades. Not us, he thought back, pulling her close for the ceremonial kiss. This is all ours. The kiss sent ripples of energy through the chamber, their enhanced connection turning simple contact into a display of quantum harmonics that made the atmospheric controls flutter. Several human guests whistled appreciatively, while XY Larian dignitaries hummed in approval at the energy patterns. The celebration that followed blended both cultures seamlessly. Humans and XY Larians mingled freely, their new shared abilities creating understanding that would have been impossible weeks ago. Lyra danced with members of both species, her hybrid nature now seen as aspirational rather than unusual. Later, in their private quarters, Kaylin and Serafina explored their deepened connection. Every caress carried echoes of emotion, every kiss resonated with shared energy. Their passion created patterns of light that danced across their skin, quantum threads responding to the intensity of their bond. "I can feel everything you feel," Serafina marveled, her amethyst skin luminescent with joy. "Every human emotion. So intense, so overwhelming." Kaylin suggested, trailing kisses down her neck. "Perfect." She corrected, "Though I must say, your human passions are particularly stimulating when combined with XY Larian sensitivities." Their laughter mingled with the quantum harmonics of their connection, creating music that only they could hear. Morning found them tangled in sheets that still shimmered with residual energy. Serafina traced patterns on Kaylin's chest, each touch sending ripples through their bond. "So, husband, ready to help guide two species into a new era?" "As long as you're by my side," he replied, pulling her close. "Though I think Lyra is going to be the real bridge between our peoples." Speaking of Lyra, Serafina's eyes sparkled with mischief. She's planning to establish a new hybrid academy, teaching others to balance their new abilities. Following in her mother's footsteps, all three of them, Kaylin observed proudly. Their peaceful moment was interrupted by a priority alert. The station systems had detected unusual energy patterns in the quantum archives, but this time, there was no fear, only anticipation of new adventures to come. "Duty calls," Serafina sighed, though her eyes danced with excitement. Kaylin kissed her once more, savoring the cascade of sensations their connection provided. "Together. Always," she promised, their bond humming with truth and possibility. 6 months after the wedding, Zenith Spire had transformed beyond recognition. The Hybrid Integration Academy occupied an entire sector of the station, its crystalline spires reminiscent of the ancient Guardian architecture. Lyra stood at its heart, teaching a class of mixed human and XY-Larian students. "The key," she explained, her hybrid energy creating intricate patterns in the air, "isn't choosing between human passion and XY-Larian precision. It's understanding how they complement each other." Kaylin watched from the observation deck, pride radiating through his enhanced senses. Serafina's arm slipped around his waist, her touch sending familiar sparks through their bond. "She's remarkable," his wife murmured, "though I might be biased." "We all are," Nyx's voice came from behind them. She approached with her usual diplomatic grace, though there was an excited energy about her that caught their attention. "And speaking of remarkable things." The Academy's main hall filled with students and dignitaries as Nyx made her announcement. The Quantum Archives had revealed coordinates to other Guardian sites throughout the galaxy. Each contained unique aspects of both species' potential, waiting to be unlocked by unified families. "The Guardians didn't just transform us," Nyx explained, her eyes sparkling with possibility. "They left us a roadmap to our future. And who better to lead these expeditions than those who proved unity was possible?" Kaylin felt Serafina's excitement surge through their bond. Adventure called to both their species, now amplified by their shared connection. Their quarters had already become too small for their passion, the quantum harmonics of their lovemaking occasionally affecting station systems despite dampening fields. "I assume you have a plan?" Kaylin asked his former lover, recognizing the familiar glint in her eye. "Always." Nyx's smile was pure mischief. "The first site is on a paradise world at the galaxy's edge. Perfect for a working honeymoon, wouldn't you say?" Serafina's fingers traced patterns on Kaylin's chest that sent shivers through their bond. "We have been talking about taking some time away," she purred. "And the academy?" Kaylin glanced at Lyra, who had finished her class and was approaching with a knowing smile. "Please," his daughter rolled her eyes. "I've been running this place since day one. Besides," she added with a grin, "someone needs to keep things stable while you two go exploring the galaxy's mysteries." The family gathered in their private quarters that evening, celebrating the next chapter of their adventure. The station's artificial sunset painted Serafina's amethyst skin in shades of gold as she curled against Kaylin on their balcony. Their bond hummed with contentment and anticipation. "Did you ever imagine," she murmured, "when you first saw that DNA scan, that it would lead to all this?" Kaylin pulled her closer, marveling at how perfectly they fit together. "I was too busy panicking about having a daughter to imagine anything else."
And now,
Her fingers traced the energy patterns that permanently marked his skin, where their bonds had transformed them both. Now, I'm wondering what other surprises the universe has in store for us. He kissed her deeply, their connection flooding with shared passion that made the quantum fields around them dance. Lyra's groan interrupted them.
seriously, can't you two control your energy signatures for one evening?
Nope, Serafina replied cheerfully, not moving from Kalen's embrace.
Human passion, remember?
Completely untamable. Nyx watched them all with satisfaction. The Guardian sites will require exactly this kind of energy, family bonds strengthened by both species traits, though perhaps with slightly less public display. The next morning, as they prepared for their expedition, Kalen found himself back at his old security checkpoint. The DNA scanner sat idle, its simple technology now seeming primitive compared to their evolved abilities. Serafina found him there, their bond letting her sense his nostalgia.
Feeling sentimental.
Just thinking about how one small moment can change everything. He pulled her close, their energies intertwining automatically. One scan revealed my daughter, led me to you, and transformed two species.
And now,
her eyes glowed with love and mischief. Now, we see what other secrets the galaxy's been hiding. He kissed her deeply, not caring that their energy signature was probably affecting systems throughout the sector. Together. As their ship prepared for departure, Lyra and Nyx came to bid them farewell. The family's combined energy created patterns of light that the station sensors would record as a new form of quantum harmony. Try not to start any more evolutionary leaps while you're gone, Lyra teased, hugging them both. No promises, Serafina laughed, her joy radiating through their family bonds. Kalen looked at his extraordinary family, his brilliant daughter, his complicated ex, and his incredible wife, and felt truly complete. From a simple DNA scan to the brink of galactic discovery, every step had led them exactly where they needed to be. The future beckoned, full of light and possibility. 1 year later, the Paradise World's triple moons cast an ethereal glow over the ancient Guardian Temple. Kalen stood at its entrance, his enhanced armor now integrated with both human and HFY technology. The quantum threads in his suit resonated with the temple's energy, creating patterns that matched the ones permanently etched into his skin. Serafina emerged from the temple's inner chamber, her amethyst skin luminescent with excitement.
There.
Their bond immediately surged with shared emotion, making the temple's crystals sing in harmony. You need to see this, she breathed, taking his hand. The chamber walls displayed star maps unlike anything they'd encountered before. But what caught Kalen's attention was the holographic message playing in the center, a recording from the Guardians themselves. Your family was just the beginning, the light being's voice resonated through their bones. Each united pair creates new possibilities, new harmonies. Your daughter's academy has already produced 12 perfectly bonded human XY couples. Each will find their own temples, their own revelations. Serafina pressed against him, her touch sending cascades of sensation through their connection. Speaking of revelations. She guided his hand to her abdomen, where a new energy signature pulsed. Kalen's eyes widened as he sensed it, a tiny spark of hybrid life, already glowing with both their energies.
How?
The temple's energy, she smiled, her eyes shimmering with joy. It didn't just unlock ancient secrets, it enhanced our compatibility even further. Apparently, the Guardians had plans for many more hybrid children. Their kiss resonated through the temple, quantum fields making ancient machinery hum to life. The star map shifted, revealing hundreds more Guardian sites, each waiting for a new united family to discover its secrets. We should call Lyra, Kalen murmured against Serafina's lips. She'll want to know she's getting a sibling. Already did, Serafina laughed. She and Nyx are organizing a whole expedition. Apparently, this is exactly what they were hoping would happen. Of course it is, Kalen grinned, pulling his wife closer. Your family never does anything without a dozen layers of planning. Our family, she corrected, her amethyst skin glowing with love. And this little one will have quite the legacy to live up to. As the temple's crystal sang around them, Kalen marveled at how far they'd come, from that fateful DNA scan. Every surprise, every revelation, had led them to this moment, and to the promise of even more wonders to come. The future wasn't just bright, it was luminescent with possibility. And somewhere, in the quantum fields that connected all things, the Guardians smiled, knowing their faith in love's power to transform had been perfectly placed.